Israel intends to kill top 3 Hamas leaders as part of Operation in Gaza before we dive in details. Please subscribe to the channel and stay always one step ahead to know all global important events happening around you. Give a thumbs up and share the video with your family and friends. Let's move on with the video. Israel plans to eliminate the top 3 commanders of Hamas, including the movement's leader in the Gaza Strip, Yahya Sinwar, as part of the ongoing military operation in the Palestinian enclave. The Financial Times newspaper reported on Friday, citing sources familiar with the strategy. Aside from Sinwar, Mohammed Deif, the head of Hamas's military wing, and his second-in-command, Marwan Issa, are on the top of the hit list. The newspaper's sources underlined that the Israeli authorities' military strategy is quite flexible and depends on many factors, including the progress of the ground operation, international pressure, and the ability to free hostages held by Hamas. On October 7th, Hamas launched a large-scale rocket attack against Israel from the Gaza Strip and breached the border, killing around 1,200 people and abducting some 240 others. The conflict has so far resulted in the deaths of over 16,000 people in the Gaza Strip. Last week, Qatar mediated a deal between Israel and Hamas on a temporary truce and the exchange of some of the prisoners and hostages, as well as the delivery of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. The ceasefire has been extended several times since then and expired this Friday morning. According to Israeli authorities, Hamas has released 110 hostages so far and still holds at least 137 others. The next major conflict, Operation Pillar of Defense, occurred in 2012. This 8-day war was marked by an escalation in rocket attacks from Gaza and a significant increase in airstrikes by Israel. The most destructive of the 3 wars, Operation Protective Edge, took place in 2014. This 50-day war resulted in significant casualties on both sides and caused extensive damage to infrastructure in the Gaza Strip. Between these major conflicts, there have been intermittent ceasefires, some brokered by Egypt and others by the United Nations. However, these have often been short-lived, with each side accusing the other of violations and provocations. Over the years, the conflict has been shaped by a complex mix of political, religious, and territorial disputes. The issue of Jerusalem and the right to self-determination have been at the heart of many of the disagreements. Other key events that have shaped the conflict include the annual flag march by Israeli nationalists through Jerusalem's Old City, which is viewed by Palestinians and Hamas as a provocation, and the ongoing tensions at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. This brings us to the present situation, a volatile mix of long-standing grievances and fresh provocations. In recent times, the conflict has taken a turn for the worse. The tussle between Israel and Hamas has seen a dramatic escalation. The skies over Gaza have been lit up with the fire and fury of rocket attacks and retaliatory strikes. The tension is like a powder keg ready to explode at the slightest provocation. Let's delve into some recent events. In one instance, a rocket launched from Gaza landed in Israel, causing slight damage to a house in southern Israel. In response, Israeli warplanes targeted 2 Hamas training camps, a security post, and an underground site used to produce rocket engines. The strikes were swift and precise, but thankfully no casualties were reported. However, the upswing in violence has raised concerns about a potential wider conflict. Meanwhile, tensions have been simmering in Jerusalem's Old City, particularly at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. Palestinians want East Jerusalem as the capital of a future state, while Israel regards all of Jerusalem as its eternal capital. Conflicts in this sacred city have only served to stoke the fires of the ongoing conflict. Moving on, the annual flag march by Israeli nationalists through Jerusalem's Old City has been a flashpoint of contention. Viewed as a provocation by Palestinians and Hamas, the march celebrates Israel's capture of the Old City during the 1967 Middle East War, passing through the Muslim quarter. Hamas has issued threats of renewed violence if the march enters Muslim neighborhoods, a situation that has the Israeli government on high alert. In the midst of this, the violence has escalated to a disturbing level. Israel has targeted and killed a Hamas commander and continued its airstrikes in Gaza. On the other side, Palestinian militants have launched rockets into Israel. The death toll is rising, and the world watches with bated breath as the situation grows more volatile by the day. Now that we've established the current scenario, let's delve into the strategies employed by Israel against Hamas. What is Israel's endgame in this conflict? Let's delve into Israel's strategy against Hamas, a significant player in the ongoing conflict. A key element of Israel's approach is the targeting of top Hamas leaders. The goal is clear: to cripple the organization by eliminating its command structure. This tactic is not new in warfare and has been employed by many nations throughout history. Hamas leaders are considered the brains behind the operations, the ones who plan, strategize, and execute attacks. By targeting these leaders, Israel aims to create a leadership vacuum within Hamas, disrupting its operations and ultimately weakening its ability to wage attacks. But how effective is this strategy? It's a contentious issue. On one hand, removing key figures can cause disarray and confusion within an organization. This could potentially slow down or even halt operations, at least temporarily. On the other hand, it's also possible that these actions may give rise to new, potentially more radical leaders, or provoke a stronger retaliation, escalating the conflict further. Moreover, there are moral and ethical implications to consider. Warfare is messy, and civilian casualties are often an unfortunate consequence. The death of non-combatants can stir up animosity, breeding a new generation of fighters and perpetuating the cycle of violence. The strategy of targeting leaders also doesn't address the root causes of the conflict. Without tackling issues like territorial disputes and ideological differences, the conflict is unlikely to find a lasting resolution. This means we could see a revolving door of leaders being replaced only for the cycle to start anew. In the grand scheme of things, this strategy is just one piece of the puzzle. It's part of a larger, more comprehensive approach that includes diplomatic efforts, intelligence gathering, and defense mechanisms like the Iron Dome missile defense system. So the question remains, will this strategy bring an end to the conflict? Only time will tell. However, one thing is certain: a lasting peace will likely require more than just military solutions. It will need dialogue, understanding, and most importantly, a willingness from all parties to find common ground. As we've seen, the Israel-Hamas conflict is complex and multifaceted. The roots of this discord run deep, dating back to the mid-20th century, and have evolved over time, influenced by a multitude of events and decisions. The current situation is tense, with both sides escalating their military activities and strategies. Israel's approach towards resolving this conflict has been to target Hamas's leadership, a strategy that carries significant risks, but is seen as a necessary step towards neutralizing the threat posed by the militant group. The use of advanced weaponry like machine guns and tanks underscores the high stakes and the severity of this ongoing conflict. Looking ahead, the path is fraught with challenges. The escalation of hostilities, the deep-seated animosity, and the geopolitical complexities all contribute to an uncertain future. Potential scenarios could range from a continued cycle of violence to a shift towards diplomatic negotiations, depending on the actions of the involved parties and the international community. While it's difficult to predict the course of this conflict, one thing is clear: there are no easy solutions. It will take a concerted international effort to bring about lasting peace in the region.